You're listening to episode 309 of the Major Issues Podcast, and on this episode, we talk about David Fincher's latest movie starring Michael Fassbender based on a French graphic novel, The Killer. The Major Issues Podcast starts right now! Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you could only be here for one reason, and it's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you each and every week by ComicBookClique.com. And you know this, I'm never alone. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
I am Dan, the number one Smiths fan.
Dan, the number one Smiths fan, is here. Dan, the movie man. Dan, the comic book man. Dan, the man of many traits. And you saw how I called you all your nicknames. I'm thorough and methodical like that. I like to take my time and make sure I get everything right, like the expert that I am.
As long as you don't eat Egg McMuffins without the bread, that's fine.
Yeah, that's a bit rough. But yeah, we are here to talk about someone as methodical, as much of an expert in their craft. We're here to cover the 2023 action thriller, The Killer.
Everything.
The thriller that is The Killer, directed by David Fincher from a screenplay by Andrew Kevin Walker. It's based on the French graphic novel, The Killer, written by Alex Matz Nolent. Apparently, Alex Nolent's pen name is Matz. So when you look at the comic cover, it just says Matz, and Luc Jacamon, who's the illustrator. The film stars Michael Fassbender in the title role, alongside Arliss Howard, Charles Parnell, Carrie O'Malley, Sarah Baker, Sophie Charlotte, and Tilda Swinton in supporting roles. It follows the titular assassin as he embarks on an international vendetta after a hit goes wrong. This was almost a perfect subject or film to cover because it intersects two separate journeys that both of us have been going on. I've been kind of, with all of ComicBookClique, right, just trying to find films and TV series that might be based on graphic novels that most may not know about. And you have been going on your own sojourn through film, going and watching as much film as you can. You have your own Letterboxd that you've been working steadily on. You've seen more movies this year in theaters than possibly any year you've been alive. And this was one of the films on your radar. Was this a theater watch?
Oh, yes, this was. Oh, I went to the Alamo Draft House for this one. This was actually the first movie in theaters that I saw in, like, the front row. Because, you know, all my life, I've always been a back-of-the-row person. That's just always been who I was. I don't know why the back of the row just always felt nice. Maybe it's because I was young and small. So, like, sitting up that close is like that Willem Dafoe meme, where I'm just like staring up into the abyss.
20 feet high.
But this was genuinely the first movie that I sat in row D, and it was Alamo Draft House, so it has a waiter and everything.
Little fancy
some food, got some beer. Yeah, it was fun. And then this just in general was an amazing time. I didn't know this was a graphic novel until after the movie came out, because this was on my radar for Fincher. Of course, you know, Fight Club, Seven, Zodiac.
Yeah.
Like I was here for this man, no matter what. And especially Fassbender and like a Jason Bourne type role. But
yeah, I assume that Fassbender and I just assume that Fassbender and Fincher are going to be what gets people to this film. You know, those names on the marquee is what's going to introduce a lot of people to this graphic novel that most didn't even really know about. I was able to kind of skim through a bit of the beginning of the graphic novel. It hadn't hit the events of this film yet.
The first book.
You did?
Yeah, I read the first issue, and it was basically like the first half of the movie. Like literally, like the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the movie was was like that first issue.
Yeah, yeah. So I was able to read that first issue too, and it seems like they were doing a lot more like flashbacks and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if it eventually got to the events of this film. But yeah, it turns out that this graphic novel has been a passion project for David Fincher for nearly 20 years. He's been trying to nail
Jesus Christ.
getting this project done. In 2008, Fincher originally thought of Brad Pitt for the role of the killer. But
And this
Pitt
was
said it
during
was
the
a
time
little
where Brad
too.
Pitt was already.
He said it was a little too nihilistic for him.
Oh my God, this is the same kind of bullshit that stopped Jacob Elordi from being Superman.
It's
The
funny
guy
because
that
I
was in
find
Euphoria
he has
called Superman Too Dark.
he has the same sort of like get up as the Bullet Train assassin. Like they both like their sunglasses and bucket hats. So I wonder if that had anything
Oh
to do
my
with it.
God. And you
Um,
know, I've never seen Brad Pitt eating egg McMuffin without the bread. I am never getting over that. I will never forget it. I was sitting in theaters with my friend Jacob, and he's just walking by France. He goes to McDonald's, and I'm like, all right, cool. You know, McDonald's, whatever. He sits down with the egg McMuffin and he takes off the bread and just eats it with the meat and the cheese and the egg. And I'm just like, this man is a psychopath. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This man is demented.
that's the ham one, right? The straight up egg McMuffin. Is that a thing? I don't eat many McDonald's
That's
breakfasts.
it's just literally a circular ham, a
Hmm.
circular egg, and a piece of sliced yellow American in between an English muffin.
Right.
And he orders it. He opens the sandwich. He takes off the English muffin bread and then bare hands ham and egg and just eats it.
Which is also pretty weird because I'm almost certain you could, like, if he really wanted it that way, he probably could have just told them, right?
No, you can't. The only place that you could do it like that is Five Guys. They have an option where you can do either a bunless burger, where they put your burger in a bowl, or you can do a lettuce burger,
Well, you do the same
where
thing
instead
in
of a
Chipotle,
bun, they
right?
wrap your burger in.
Chipotle, you could ask for it on a
Yeah,
tortilla and get it like in a
you could do a
plate or a
lettuce
bowl or
wrapped
something.
burrito.
I also think
Well, you
knowing
can get a
this
burrito
character,
bowl.
yeah, I think knowing this character, he would think if he had a very specific food order that might somehow get traced back to him or something like that. So he's like,
Do you
screw
remember
it.
everything he was eating in that movie?
I don't remember everything he was eating in the film now.
He ate a breadless egg McMuffin, hard boiled egg, a banana, and a granola bar.
I remember the
No, sorry, he
granola
didn't
bar.
have a granola bar. Sorry, he had a banana, and he drank. No, it was a granola bar, and he
It
also
was
had
some sort of,
an
yeah.
Ensure.
Yeah, I
He
remember the
drank an
inshore
Ensure.
too. Yeah.
He he stopped at 7-Eleven after the Miami uh, part,
Yeah.
and gets literally like 7-Eleven truck stop food with hard boiled egg, a banana, granola bar, and an Ensure.
Right.
And what is this man's diet regimen?
That can't be good for him. And when something's not good for you, it may cause you to kind of steer away from something for a while. Like if he got food poisoning from that egg McMuffin, odds are he wouldn't, continue to buy egg McMuffins. And the
Oh
food
no,
poisoning
I
that it
know.
turns out happened to Michael Fassbender was the poison that was Dark Phoenix. Apparently, this is Michael Fassbender's first film in 4 years because of Dark Phoenix.
Oh my
And
God!
I
Wait a
sat and
minute.
I thought
Let me
about
do
it.
the
I
math on
sat
that.
and I thought about it. And yeah, bro, he's
We saw
not done
Dark Phoenix
anything.
together in theaters in like 2019.
2019. And this
That
is
was
his first film
oh
in
my
4
God.
years.
That means I saw Michael Fassbender's last film and first film back,
Yeah.
both in theaters.
You could
That's
see
kind
how
of
in that
crazy.
moment he's like, I need to do something from a director with a vision. You know? Like I need to do something, not a conveyor belt. We're just putting another movie in the line of 20 movies, but something that someone cares about. And like I said, a passion project. He's he's been working on this for 20 years.
And okay, and
And
maybe it's me just speaking in hyperbole. Sorry to cut you off, but this just feels to me, besides Jobs, like an actual breakout role for this man. He's old. He may have had lead roles, but he's never really been able to shine alone as a lead. He's always
Yeah.
been on a team. He's always had a notable actor working alongside with him, whether Seth Rogen or James McAvoy. Like or even in
His big
Inglourious
hit,
Bastards. Like he's never had a chance to shine alone.
his big thing would be Prometheus, right? Would you say would probably be like his
Even th-
biggest?
even then, he had Charlize Theron
But I'm saying, like, do you think like that
and
would be
Idris
like
Elba.
his biggest? Like, if you're looking at his resume, you're looking at leading man kind of stuff. Prometheus is up there,
That would be
right?
the first time that he was a leading man. Yeah, that would definitely be like his first like actual role as a leading man. But like this movie, like isolated him from anybody else. But the only other notable person that acted alongside of him was in like 2 second scene.
Right.
And I didn't even know Tilda Swinton was in this movie until I saw her in the movie.
You want to talk about funny people in this movie? So I'm reading the credits. The opening credits are pretty cool. They look very comic booky when it starts. And I'm reading the names that are coming up, whatever, and I see Charles Parnell, and my mind goes, "The hell is Jerry from Rick and Morty doing in here?" And
Yes,
for the rest
yes,
of the
yes.
film,
I said the same thing. I thought it was
for
Chris
the rest of
Parnell
the
as
film,
well.
I'm waiting for Chris Parnell to show up, and the film and to the point that I'm looking at the client at the end because I know this is the ending of the film. Like, that's not like, am I supposed to believe this was Chris Parnell? No, it was never Chris Parnell. It was always Charles Parnell, very talented actor, but yeah, completely, completely spaced on that. I was waiting
Yes.
this entire time for
He was the
Cyril
one that ended
Figgis
up
to pop
taking
up.
the nice staple bath.
Suppressing fire.
No,
I was
I
waiting for
literally said the
Cyril
same
Figgis.
thing. I that was who I actually said. I didn't even say Jerry. I didn't even see the Charles. I saw Parnell because I'm in the front row. I'm seeing everything. I'm like trying to pay attention to everything.
Yeah,
And the credits was very reminiscent to Scott Pilgrim because like the credits were like stylized for each actor.
yeah,
Like it was a different background every time. So I'm trying to look at everything. But yeah, I saw Parnell, and I'm like, oh my god, Cyril? There's no way he's
right,
in this. But I also know who Charles Parnell is as well. So when I
right.
saw him, that's when I put two and two together. I'm like,
Connected,
oh, wait a minute.
connected for you.
Like,
Um,
oops.
so this is in his entire filmography. This is David Fincher's first comic book film. But he was previously attached to direct several others, including Blade and Spider-Man in 2002. He was talked about doing this.
Oh, this man got fucking not even paranoia, but a phobia to work with big studios ever since Alien 3.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen that DVD
When
making
when you
of.
saw how
What
20th
a
Century
shit
Fox
show.
worked,
What a shit
you
show.
seen the making of, right?
Yeah.
Yo. Once he saw 20th Century Fox worked, he's like, you know what? This is not even worth it. I'm just gonna do my own thing. And
Um,
then we got Seven and Fight Club and Zodiac.
Given this now and the films that you have seen of him, I'm pretty sure you're a bit knowledgeable about his direction style and the things that make his movies like that. What do you think would be a good property for him to tackle? Marvel, DC, Image, it doesn't really matter. What do you think
If you
if he
ask
wanted
me,
to? Yeah.
um, definitely a Vertigo. I would want to see either a Vertigo or an Image, or if he's gonna go like DC or Marvel, it has to be something with bite to it. It can't just be. He can't just take a
Like a
Superman
Punisher?
project on. He can't just take a Spider-Man project on.
Yeah. I wonder if something like Punisher would be good for him, or if that's too kind of bloody and gritty. If he's a bit more. I mean, a
Well,
David
see, I
Fincher
think he could
Batman
do the
movie
same
could
thing
be
that
really
Eric
good.
Kripke is doing for the boys.
I was gonna say a David Fincher
No, yeah,
Batman
but
movie
I
could be
think he
pretty
could do
good, but
exactly
the
what Kripke
Batman
does
is
for the
basically
boys.
the Batman is of David Fincher, like aping of kind of sort of like Seven and stuff. So I guess I just I predicted the future or
Well,
something like
no,
that.
the Batman was definitely taking a lot of Fincher, and like Matt Reeves was definitely doing a lot of Seven,
Yeah,
Zodiac there.
yeah,
So it would
that's
have to be
interesting.
something dark. It would have to be something with bite.
I could see that. Our protagonist goes under many aliases, and I've written them down here in case people were a bit curious as to why they sound familiar. He was once Felix Unger. That's a character from The Odd Couple from 1970. He was Archibald Bunker, aka Archie Bunker from All in the Family. He was Oscar Madison. That's the other Odd Couple guy there. He was Howard Cunningham from Happy Days. He was Reuben Kincaid from The Partridge Family. He was Lou Grant from Lou Grant. He was Sam Malone from Cheers. He was George Jefferson from The Jeffersons, and then Robert Hartley from The Bob Newhart Show. So at least he has a sense of humor for his aliases.
Yeah, no, it was getting ridiculous. I caught on once I saw Felix Unger because
Yeah, I was
that
like,
name
that's
was
the
just
Odd
too
Couple guy,
inexplicable.
right?
Same, same thing for Archie Bunker. Like
Yeah.
when you notice Archie Bunker and you notice Felix Unger, you're like, wait a minute, and Sam Malone, you're like, something's wrong here.
I mean, George Jefferson, but I guess
Even
Jefferson's
Howard
pretty.
Cunningham.
Yeah, I think Jefferson's pretty. What you
No,
call
yeah,
it?
yeah,
Pretty
exactly.
common, but I don't know about George
Jefferson's would be
Jefferson.
known. Jefferson's would be known. No, George Jefferson is definitely a name that's like synonymous with pop culture. Same thing with Howard Cunningham. Like, but we have to remember, dude, we're in our 30s.
Yeah,
We grew up with parents, especially me. My parents were born in 1971. So when a brunt of these shows were coming out, my parents were like 10, 12, 13, 14. They're watching Welcome Back Cotter and Happy Days and stuff like that when they're like in high school. So it'd be like the equivalent of us watching How I Met Your Mother and It's Always Sunny.
yeah,
So of course, when my parents are in their early 20s raising me, I'm gonna end up being raised on Cheers and Wings and stuff like that. So it's a
yeah,
bit
yeah.
weird. I have to remember, like, I was raised
How time
by
works.
children basically.
Yes, yes, yes. I so before we get into full spoiler territory with this, I'll go ahead and give my review, and then you go ahead and give yours, and then we'll dive right in. It's a hefty movie in the sense that it's 2 hours long, but as far as like notes and stuff like that, a lot of it is building anticipation. So I feel like talking about the film is going to be significantly shorter than watching the film. I would also say that I, in my opinion, to truly appreciate this film, you have to watch it more than once. Because I think that when you watch it for the first
I watched
time,
it twice.
yeah, I think when you watch it for the first time, you're wanting the film to follow the very uh, natural tropes that would occur in a revenge film, because that's what this basically becomes at one point. Um, and ultimately, if
Well, this is
that's
a John Wick ass.
anything where the
Yeah, go ahead.
company burns you, right? Any spy situation where the organization turns on
I
you
feel like
is
we get those
literally,
movies at least once a year.
yeah. That's why I was joking
At least
when we
one
did.
movie a year.
That's why I was joking when we did Gray Man, because I was like, yeah, they burn you, and then the person that they grab to get you he's unorthodox, but he gets the job done. It's always, and this guy is unorthodox, but he gets the job. It happens all the time. But I got that. If I'm watching
Does
it,
he
I know.
really?
Yeah, well, we're gonna talk about all that. Yeah, when I was watching it, yeah, I found that it hit certain trope points in a story like this, but Fincher understands how to play with structure and subvert expectations, so it doesn't necessarily end exactly how you think it will. And so, if you're watching this film for the first time and you're expecting it to follow the same recipe, when it doesn't do what you intended to do at the end, you could leave a little bit confused. The air doesn't get taken out of the balloon as in the same way. But when you watch it for the second time and you keep that Tilda Swinton conversation in your mind, nothing that this character does is by mistake. And you where that leads your mind and stuff, to each his own. I thought Fassbender was really, really good in this. I thought the minimal cast helped make this work. I thought dehumanizing almost everybody by not giving them names. Also showed like the cold, kind of callous world that I guess a killer or somebody who constantly has to be, covering his tracks, has to live in. And of course, like everything else I've ever said about comic books, I truly adore that they brought in his inner monologue, because I think almost without it, I don't know what this would look like. I think you need to be in the mind
Can
of
you
a
imagine
killer,
those first
but
like
the
10 minutes
killer.
without the monologue?
Yeah, it's a lot of
Like I couldn't.
and many things have existed, right? Many films and many television shows have existed without inner monologue. But sometimes that means they have to be a bit heavy-handed with what you see on screen, so as to allow your mind to connect those dots, because they're not going to outright tell you. But I really, really love.
I wouldn't know he was meticulous just by the yoga. Like just because he does the yoga and he listens to the Smiths, I wouldn't know he was meticulous until his after the whole him going outside and walking around and coming back. Because then he was wearing gloves, scrubbing things, doing dishes. Like
Yeah.
it would be too slow for me to get to know and want to care about this character. So sometimes the inner monologue is very much needed.
Yeah, not to get too spoilery, but I also think that the inner monologue allows you to see how he sees society, which I think paints how he sees the job and paints how he sees his life in general. And a lot of that is in flux in this film. It starts off with a very, very hard, rigid set of rules. And as we continue, we can see how emotion might change those things and thus change the trajectory of a character overall. But I would recommend it. Again, I think two watches, it's again a hefty watch, but I think if you have the time, two watches really, really helps it go down well. But there's always something on screen to entertain you, and beautifully shot, beautifully color graded, etc. Let me know what you think about this film, spoiler free, and then tell me, I guess without spoilers, what are a few, I guess what do we call them, Fincherisms, a few calling cards that you recognize of the director where you're like, yeah, he had to, that's, there were no feet shots, so I know this wasn't a Tarantino film, but if you have any history with that director, what do you think are some things you've seen in this that were totally Fincher?
Well, this year's been a big one. I've watched like 117 movies this year, so it's like it's hard to like say what movie deserves the top 10, what movie doesn't, and the grade rating. But this one is definitely a top. This is a 5-star movie for me. When I watched it a second time, I got about 20 minutes in, and I knew that I loved this movie. Like it was just one of those movies where I know I'm going to see again and again and again and again and again. And when I decided to do the ranking, I have this at 11. This is my 11th best movie of the year. And then with Fincher's ranking, this is number 5. This is like this is the top 5 Fincher movies. Like this is one of the best movies he's ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved Fassbender's acting. I think he needs movies where he gets to have the fights, because he's genuinely a great action star. He can do action. So seeing him getting to fight like Jason Bourne, John Wick is just perfect. And with the Fincherisms, well, he always tackles killers. He always tackles psychotic, sick, fucking
the
mental
mind
cases.
of somebody who's willing or can kill people.
From Seven to Fight Club to Zodiac to Gone Girl, that's just what he does.
Okay, so this was right in his alley.
And then, of course, the color green.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you see a lot of color green, just know that's Fincher.
Well, this is definitely Fincher.
Just know it's Fincher.
Let's get all up in this story. We'll be taking it chapter by chapter. Yeah, let's get into the mind of a killer. It goes chapter by chapter, and each chapter has a title and a location. So we start off in Paris with chapter 1 called The Target. Our story starts off with us watching an unnamed but meticulous professional assassin called the Killer. Well, that's what we'll be calling him. We see him stake out a hotel in Paris from an abandoned WeWork office. He prepares to use a sniper rifle to kill a target who will check into the hotel room at an unspecified time, and we get a bit of insight of his process through his inner monologue. One of the things that he repeats to himself over and over again, I have written here: stick to your plan, anticipate, don't improvise, trust no one, never yield an advantage, fight only the battle you're paid to fight, forbid empathy. Empathy is weakness. Weakness is vulnerability. Each and every step of the way, ask yourself, what's in it for me? This is what it takes, what you must commit yourself to if you want to succeed. Now,
that shit was great. A lot of it, I loved, like the whole. There was when I was watching this show called "Fall of the House of the Usher."
yeah.
There was a line from good old Mark Hamill where he plays a shady lawyer, and he's like, "I don't have loved ones. Loved ones is collateral. I don't have collateral." I'm like, yo, that's some cold shit to say. Like, yo, like you can't hold nothing over me because I don't got nothing you can hold. Like,
so there's a lot of question over whether or not, like, are these rules of being a good assassin, or are these rules that make him feel better about being an assassin? You know, like is this one of those, like,
it's not even about feeling better about being an assassin because he doesn't care. It's money. He has no feelings towards humans enough where he doesn't even care about the target. The target is nothing more than a video game. He is his own video game main character.
but he's not having fun. It's not a game for him. Like, he knows that it's about the money. He's so emotionless in it. I wonder if that was a prerequisite for the job. Like, if that was something, like, he's got himself in this mind state, because we see when a shot glass is full of emotion gets introduced into this story, all these rules go by the wayside. Right? So how strongly does he believe in this belief system? Or is it just what he says to go to bed at night? Like, these are, you know what I'm saying? Like, I only killed who I had to kill, and I don't work for a country.
Well, that's what I love about the synopsis of this movie. My favorite thing about this movie is the synopsis, because it says he swears that it's not personal. He's on a mission that he swears it's not personal. And it's like, bro, it is nothing if but personal.
Yeah.
Like, they came to one of your safe houses and roughed up your girl. And you're going after each and every one of them that had something to do with it. That is the definition of personal, my friend. But the synopsis swears by the fact that this character believes it's not personal. And I think that's brilliant marketing.
I think one of the other important quotes from this is, from the beginning of history, the few have always exploited the many. This is the cornerstone of civilization. The blood in the mortar that binds all bricks. Whatever it takes, make sure that you're one of the few and not one of the many. So, yeah, even with this line here about the few and the many, he has an elitist kind of view of himself. It could possibly be because he acts like a ghost. You know, he's able to get in and out of places most people can't. He affords an amount of money and a lifestyle most people dream of. He knows of secrets in high society and stuff that other people don't. But overall, as we'll see at the end of this, he doesn't really want to be one of the few, because being one of the few is an extremely lonely, paranoid, and maybe even boring existence. In the comic, he seems to be
the whole looking over the shoulder.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in the comics, he definitely has that feeling of almost like Jack Skellington. Like, he's good at his job, and it's almost kind of making him a bit bored of it. And if you use that to infer this film at all, and as well, let's get there. He's incredibly patient during his stakeout. He practices yoga, he listens to the Smiths, and talks on the phone with his handler, an attorney and his former university law professor, Edward Eddie Hodges. The killer narrates these activities, stressing the mantra of his rules and the routine, uh, and even the boring nature of his job, and how his cynicism and lack of empathy are beneficial for his chosen profession. And he's also incredibly sleep deprived. The target eventually arrives in the company of a dominatrix whom the killer did not expect. The killer misses his target, accidentally shooting the dominatrix. He flees on an e-scooter, successfully evading the police and disposing of his rifle and clothes and anything else that could link the botched attempt to him, while muttering about missing the target. He then flies to the United States under one of his numerous fake identities. So this is what I meant to say. It's really odd for this film to start off with a man speaking about how proficient he is at a job, only for us to watch him botch. And Tilda Swinton's character later on, the expert, alludes to this idea that it might have been on purpose. Where do you sit on all that?
I don't think it was on purpose. It wouldn't if it was on purpose. We're getting his inner monologue. He's meticulous. He's very pragmatic and straightforward. He wouldn't exclaim, "Oh fuck." I think it was a brilliant choice by Fincher, or even if it was in the comic, I think it's a brilliant choice for him to be this meticulous, perfect, by the numbers, by the book killer, where I'm the best at what I do, I'm the best in the world. And then the first mission that the audience sees is him failing, showing he's only human, that God does bleed. Like, that's how I view it anyways. I see it as this way to shatter that image of, no, this man is not perfect, even though the next thing you're going to see for the rest of the movie is him being like
Kind of
the best
perfect.
killer in the world.
I get that. I think there's weight to your point of view. I guess where I come down on it is a little bit like, I feel like there was a point in time in which he did clearly have the shot, and the introduction of the dominatrix seemed to bug him. And when the dominatrix shows up, that's when he repeats to himself, stick to the plan, don't improvise, as if for a second he wasn't going to stick to the plan, as if for a second he was thinking about doing something else. And even when he has, like I said, it seems like there's a couple of times where he has a good shot. Now, obviously, he also has a routine about his heart rate. You know, things have to be precise for him to take these shots. These are all calculations he's made in his head. But if you're thinking about the analogy of the that we get later on of the bear and the hunter, you know, like, is he in it for the hunt, or is he about done with all this? And or at the very least, once this happens, he doesn't go to Hodge, right? He doesn't go to Hodge and is like, yo, I messed up. Like, what are we going to do? Kind of stuff. He goes home, which is what everyone tells him is the exact opposite of what he should have done, given the fact that he now, is going to be targeted, or, he just literally botched a hit. Who knows where that revenge is going to come from.
People you can apologize to. These are definitely not people you can apologize to. This isn't your boss at Home Depot where you can say, hey, boss, I'm sorry, I put the wrong price tag and sold a bundle of wood for $10. This is big stuff.
But you're either going to pay for it up front, or you're going to pay for it somewhere else. Ultimately, boss is boss, because in the same Home Depot scenario, if you don't tell them, you can't just do that and then go home. Right? Like, if you're working fast food and you put all the McFlurries in the fryer by accident, you can't just go home and then come to work the next day. You either have to come up front and be like, hey, I messed this up, or you leave and be like, you know what, I'm done with this. I was always done with this place. I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what, that was my last straw, and I was always trying to leave this place, and you know what, I'm out of here, kind of stuff. Or at least that's what I'm bringing to the conversation. I think I think it's interesting to talk
The
about
thing
whether
that
or
I can
not.
say with the hesitation was got in trouble. I can't seem to make an argument that he was ready to quit because he said it himself that he was trying to make $1 million. He just needed that million, and then he
Yeah,
was out of the game forever. So I don't think he would jeopardize it if that was like one of the last two cases that he said he was doing.
but it also
This was
becomes a
supposed to be
case
his like
of
retirement.
once he messed up, he was fine without the $1 million. You know, like I remember me saying, I want this amount of money saved in my bank before I left New York and went to Florida, right? And I ended up getting like half of it. And I didn't think I could get half of it, so I ended up doubling it and saying if I really want to be secure, I should have $10,000 saved in my bank account before I move. And I had a conversation with somebody one day, and I was just in the dumps from where I was at my job, all that kind of stuff. And they were like, "Are you still planning to go to Florida?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, what are what's taking you so long?" And I'm like, "Well, I said I wanted to save up 5 Gs. I was able to save up 5 Gs, and then I ended up getting changed over, and 10 became the magic number." And they asked me a question that was sort of like along the lines of like, "Are you going to be happy in the process of getting those $10,000?" Or is five enough with where you're at now to kind of cut ties and make this choice a reality? I do think if this kit would have went well, he probably would have done one more or whatever, got to that magic number. But he didn't. Again, like it's not like he signed up for the next gig. He went home. Like he went to see his boo in Dominican Republic,
No, he
and
did well.
also there's also a bit of me that's like the gall to think that you could live that life and be untouched, the gall to make you think that like none of like the elitist nature, like literally on the top looking down on everybody, shooting people from afar, playing anyone who has to deal with identification, he's playing like a fiddle because he has 17 different passports, he has different names and all that kind of stuff. It's odd for someone to be that meticulous and not kind of see. Do you think it was a like kind of an obvious mistake going back home, as Hodge tells him later on?
Oh, of course it was. Of course he's that. But that's why I'm going into the argument that they're showing him make these mistakes after you spend 10 minutes in his mind of him convincing you that he's the best in the world, only to show you he hesitated, he botched a killing, he ran away like a coward, he got his girlfriend endangered. He's doing all of these mistakes while trying to convince you that he's the best. I think it's brilliant because you want to love him, you want to like him, and he's doing a lot to make you like him, but as well as making you say, "Yo, this guy's kind of a fucking idiot."
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Fassbender kind of plays like a dope.
yeah. So the killer lands in the Dominican Republic and drives to his secret, lavish compound, only to find it has been broken into. After surveying the bloody scene, he contacts a hospital and learns that his romantic partner, Magdala, had been attacked. He immediately heads there to visit her in the intensive care unit and sees her brother Marcus watching over her. He learns from Marcus that Magdala was interrogated and tortured by two assassins, but managed to injure one of them and escape. The killer also learns that the assassins left in a green car with a light on top like a taxi. Magdala seems proud of herself when she admits that she never once snitched. So yeah, like
No, that's a
the
real
brother
ride
knows
guy.
him.
That was a real ride.
Huh?
I mean, that's a real rider guy right there. Because like she was like proud of that. I never said a word. I never said nothing. I kept my mouth shut. I'm like, oh my god, all right, girl. I
Yeah,
see you.
she was really holding her own. Yeah, so she's down. I don't know what she knows about what she knows about his work. I don't think any of that's super clear. I know that Marcus obviously. You think she knows it
Oh,
all?
she definitely knows it all.
Interesting.
Oh, she definitely knows it all. She didn't defend him the way she did if she didn't either know A, he's an assassin, or B, he fed her some bullshit like, yeah, I'm
I'm John
CIA.
Wick.
Some
Yeah,
True
yeah.
Lies shit. Like one or the other has to be an option. Either she knows he's an assassin or she thinks he's CIA secret agent.
Somebody
man.
worth defending, right? Because she could have gave up somebody. She could have gave up herself in that moment and saved a lot of
But she could have
broken
saved her and her
ribs.
brother with no problem.
So
Probably for a
they
couple of
did
cracked
that.
teeth.
I thought that scene was very well done, where he's surveying the apartment, where he sees like the broken glass and he sees the blood splatter, and he, like, your mind can kind of fill in the blanks as to what happened here.
Oh, once he noticed the cigarette buds, I knew it. Yeah, exactly. Once he noticed the cigarette buds and the camera holds on the cigarette buds, and I'm like, oh, yeah, we were with this guy for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
He definitely doesn't smoke cigarettes. And he knows that he knows people. We know now that he knows people.
And it was
that
also
don't smoke,
blaring
so
music when he got to
saw
the
those cigarette
apartment
buds.
as well. It was blaring
Yeah.
the Smiths. So I just thought that was one of those non-speaking moments that I thought went well on screen, where you can kind of connect the dots of like, oh, okay, there was obviously a scuffle here. There's blood streaked across the wall. There's that piece of broken glass with blood on it. Now we know she like ran through like a plate glass window. So the killer promises Marcus that nothing like this will ever be allowed to happen again, which I thought was a very odd way to word that, right? It's not this won't happen again. Is this will not be allowed to happen again, which means that I will now set the precedents as to why, like I will now show everyone who's capable of doing this why they should know not to do this.
No, that's why I'm saying it's like some John Wick shit, because he's literally telling the entire table, yo, you know who I am, right? All right, don't ever try this on me again.
I thought that was pretty interesting, because again, you see on his face, you see when he talks to her that he obviously cares about these people, and this was something that he had no empathy of. Literally just shot a dominatrix like the day before or whatever, and
no, yeah, you could surmise that's his girlfriend or wife or partner of some sort.
Yeah, enough to go to a hospital where he can be spotted, identified, etc. and so forth. He is very careful. So the frenzy in which he was able to find her and then go locate her and literally talk to her shows you that he's willing to at least forego some of his carefulness to do this. Because even when he shot the dominatrix, what that scene of him like scrubbing and throwing out his clothes, and he's like almost upset. It reminds me of like the dentist, like, oh, you peed, you just sprayed DNA everywhere. Like that's what he's like talking. He's like, I might as well have like licked whatever, because that's, he understands how the little things that if you don't clean up can end up coming back to haunt you. So and when he's on the plane, he's looking at people that may look suspicious, etc. and so forth.
And this man was doing everything with like gloves on. It's like, yo, you at this point you're literally washing your gloves. Like, we can't be this paranoid. And yeah, he's this paranoid, which leads you to believe, yo, how many times has this man messed up before? Where he's literally scrubbing the gloves before he throws them away.
And he knows
he was eating and like toothbrush scrubbing each plate and each utensil as he was eating.
And it kind of makes your mind wonder whether or not he's being proficient or paranoid. If you're
column A, column B.
Proficient until you're paranoid, right? Like, so long as something bad happens, you're proficient. if
it's a thin line, about as thin as
it's pretty thin.
Dental floss,
as thin as a Q-tip. But Um, he tracks down the taxi driver Leo, who drove the assassins to the killer's home, and after pointing a gun at him, starts to get some answers. Leo identifies a man with an injured leg, whom he calls the Brute, and a woman who resembled a Q-tip, but swears he had nothing to do with anything that happened on the property. He says the assassins wouldn't take no for an answer and pleads with the killer, who shoots and kills Leo without flinching, leaving his body in his taxi.
Bro, that shit had the theater jumping. Like, people jumped.
They shot him like mid-sentence.
That shit had me a little.
Yeah.
It was so matter
Very
of fact.
cold and calculated. At one point he even agrees to leave the taxi behind. Like, I'll just bounce, bro. You never have to worry about hearing from me, etc. So
because he saw his face, heard his voice, knew who he was.
Okay, so breaking his fight only the battles you're paid to fight, he ends up seeking to track down the other two assassins, making it personal. So we go to chapter 3, and we see the lawyer in New Orleans. The killer travels. Go ahead.
Okay, I just have to say it as a movie thing. I don't know what it is this year, but almost every single movie that has come out in this year has done has broken their movies up in chapters and parts and books. And I'm not mad at it. I'm kind of liking the style choice, but like 1 or 2 movies, okay. But it's at least 5, 6 movies that I've seen this year that have broken things up into chapters and parts. And I'm like, yo, okay, what's going on now?
I think it's got to be fun to write that way. Right? It's got to be fun to sort of section it.
Definitely. It's easy.
Section it off.
Easy to write
and it also helps that this is based on a comic book. So you can literally do individual issues. 6 to 7 issues is a volume. Is a comic arc. So I think that's interesting as well.
And that's about 40 minutes of a movie right there. So there you go. You have Act 1 and 2.
So the killer travels to Edward Hodges' office in New Orleans, Louisiana, in hopes of getting info on Magdala's attackers. He manages to gain entry to the building disguised as a custodial worker, and after forcing Dolores, Hodges' secretary, to follow, Hodges' secretary and fellow handler, to restrain Hodges and then herself, he destroys the electronic records of their work together by putting staples through Hodges' computer. I love that Hodges like, that's juvenile. It's like, what? That's so juvenile.
Yeah, because again, it shows like, bro, you may be like meticulous, but in some cases, you're not the brightest bulb.
This is like emotional.
It's a laptop. All you did was break the screen. I could
That's
easily
another thing.
take a hard drive.
Do you believe Hodge when he says that everything is on those 2 laptops? Like, is that super smart or super safe? I mean, is that super smart or a lie? I guess is what I'm saying.
If there genuinely is everything on just 2 laptops that he destroyed, stupidest thing in the world, because then the entire empire topples. But I guess that's the point of what this character is doing. He's literally supposed to be toppling a hitman empire. If it's a lie, it's the most brilliant lie in the world, because then it still leaves room, like a MacGuffin, for sequels. Because the series is only 10 issues.
Yeah. Well, it continues into like later, like this story, I believe, is 10 issues. I think it continues into later volumes of other stuff because it stopped for a very long time. The series itself seemingly coming to a natural conclusion, and I heard just recently kicked back up to like how Umbrella Academy, how we're starting to get some new stuff from there, similar to that. So Hodges attempts to de-escalate the situation, but the killer just shoots him in the chest with a nail gun 3 times. Crazy death. He basically tells him, you're going to bleed out.
Which is another reason why I say that this dude is an idiot, because he's like, he hits him in the chest with the staple gun, and he's like, all right, I got you. I pierced your lung, and you should have about he said 9 minutes to choke on your own blood. Dude died in 60 seconds. He's like, huh? What? Oh, that's weird. I'm like, oh my
So is
god,
that
what
so
the
is that
hell is?
that's what I'm saying.
It
Is
was
that
almost a
him straight up
comedy.
messing up, or is he just too emotional in the state to do the right math?
It has to be a little of column A and column B, because even so, once you puncture the lung with a small enough, like, dagger, like a
Yeah.
staple gun, like you're puncturing so small that the blood is going to
Right.
rush fast. This isn't going to be a gash or a gush where it can clot up. Like, this shit's going to pour like a
Yeah,
fucking
he was trying to
geyser.
anticipate like his age, his smoking, all that kind of stuff. All of that went into this math here. Um,
That was what he said. He's like, he's not a smoker. He's pretty fit. He's this age. He should have bled out in minutes. Why did he go in a few seconds? My guy, you hit him with like fucking 5 staples in the
what do
lungs.
you think of Hodges refusing to give up the info?
He didn't care if he was going to die or not, because it's them's the breaks. That's breakage. He knew cost of business. He knew exactly what he was signing up for because he was the one that allowed it to happen.
We were talking about this, so let's continue with it. Um, Obviously, there's no such thing as like right or wrong in this universe, but is what Hobbs saying true? Not Hobbs, Hodges. This is what Hodge saying true. Was the mistake him going back? Like he kind of like this. You made this like you didn't make this easy, kind of stuff.
I think the mistake was it was him not just owning up to the botched hit in general. I feel like if he owned up to the botched hit in general, the worst that would happen is he would have to once again breakage pay out of
Yeah,
his own pocket, which sets him back on his goal of the money he wants. So now 2 more hits turns to 12 more
insane.
hits. Hit that, but them's the breaks, like
Them's
that's
the
what
breaks.
happens. Like, you had a clear shot even with the dominatrix in the room, and as fast as you got out there when you shot the dominatrix is as fast as you could have gotten out there if you shot that
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
So yeah, he made the mistake, and now he's trying to be able to not suffer consequences
right.
of his mistake.
I also love Hodges. Hodge has this demeanor about him where he's like surprised that the killer is taking this personally. Because I believe if he's worked with this man for a while and they talk as they talk and knowing his inner monologue, I could see a lot of this being kind of like the kind of their relationship kind of being cold and transactional. I mean,
Well, yeah, this isn't
yeah.
exactly his Winston.
And him coming, even when he shows up to the thing, he goes, "The hell are you doing here?" It's not like a, "Oh no, he knows." It's like you come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? And then again, when he's kind of shocked about it, he's like, "Bro, you went home. Like, what are you?" I think it's an interesting.
Yeah, and that's why he was making the remarks like this is childish and stuff, because he's like, this is
Yeah, we're
nonsense what we're
wasting
doing
time.
right now.
Like, this is all theatrics. Like, what are you? Um, oh, you're mad about that girl that got beat up? I thought you had no empathy. I thought you had no. This is what I would think is going on in his head, if not outright said.
And that's what cracked me up the most is like, yo,
Oh,
she survived. The most she got is a few cracked ribs and a black eye. Like, yo, count your blessings,
yeah.
take your
Go to
losses,
another island. Move
and
to a
move.
different island, please.
Exactly, like
I
move.
want to. I want to read you some. I
Like,
want to read
she's
you some stuff
alive.
from. Let me see if I still have it from the comic that I had written down. Certain lines. One thing is, in the comic, it's a $5 million goal, and his little hideout is in Venezuela. Another fun fact: his first hit was with a baseball bat in the comics. um, and then he used the money from his second hit to buy his first gun. But there's these 2 lines that I thought were pretty. Says a lot about the character. He says, "I help rich people kill each other. Poor people can't afford me. They handle it themselves. I thought that was pretty cold.
Yeah, no, that shit
That's pretty cold.
that was
And another line
great.
from the comics is, "Don't talk to me about justice or morals. Even God himself, I wouldn't listen to. Not with his record." I, I was like,
Another one
well,
that
he's trying to make this very black and white, and for a very long time, he's managed to keep things black and white. Follow the rules, stay alive, get the job done, get paid. And now all of this gray is on his plate, and he doesn't know what to do with it. Hodge denies to reveal the names and dies quicker than the killer anticipated, aspirating his own blood. Dolores offers to show the killer the assassin's identities in her personal paper files in her home, which proof that it's not only in the computer. Excuse me. Asking in return that the killer give her a quick and non-suspicious death so her children can claim the life insurance payout. After receiving the names at her home, the killer breaks his rule not to show empathy and breaks her neck, and she falls down this flight of stairs, making it look like an accident.
So, I'm not gonna lie, maybe New York is a cynical bunch, but we were cracking.
It happens. It happens in a clip. It happens very, very, very fast. You're literally turning a corner to a staircase, and he just snaps her neck, and she tumbles. Did you get in the moment? Did you after the laughter? Did you get in the moment? Why? What he did?
Yeah. Once the laughter settled down, I'm like, yeah. Well, I mean, she knew she wasn't being let go. He knew that he wasn't letting her go.
But what do you think about her? What do you think about?
That's why she like swallowed that.
What do you think about him making it look like an accident, though? Yeah.
Mercy. She acts nicely. He also saw the Xanax, so it's like it would look suspicious when they do the toxicology. And she's got a whole bunch of fucking Xanax in her system and a gunshot wound to the head.
Efficient. Got it done. She's dead.
So at least this way, it looks like she overdosed.
He also disposes of Hodge's body. With the locations of the assassins in his possession, he goes on the hunt for the brute. The killer drives to St. Petersburg.
No, and this is another instance where he shows his brilliance, because the way he manages to sneak into that building as a sanitation worker, where he gets the markers, gets the stickers, colors. I
also love how he buys stuff on Amazon.
Yo,
like he just buys stuff on Amazon.
Oh my god! Yeah, no, that shit had me dead. I'm like, what is this? This movie's an advertisement for McDonald's and Amazon.
For an elite assassin, he sure does slum it with us with McDonald's and Amazon and 7-Eleven and all the right. Like he still, he still vacations in the many
and kills people for $100,000.
The killer drives to St. Petersburg, Florida, which is 20 minutes from where I am currently at, and is able to identify the brute by his limp after drugging his pit bull with sedatives. Which isn't me, or was like that not working in the beginning? I felt like he kept trying to throw meat with pills in it, and the dog was like, "Nah."
No, because the dog wasn't eating it. That was the whole thing. Is he was throwing the meat wads. The dog was sniffing it.
That's what I meant. I thought I was seeing that right. It wasn't working in the beginning. Like he literally was just like, "Nah, what are you doing?" Like I'm not.
Yeah, no, he was sniffing it, but then he's like, "Wait, no, back to attention." Like, he was being a good boy.
Yeah,
he wasn't. Being
eventually
tricked.
Gets got.
Like he knew something was up, and then by that third one that he threw, he's like, because he threw it and it went in front of him, so there was no distracting him at that point. There was no taking him away from where he was. He could eat it while looking. And then he
out cold
knocked that fucker out.
The killer enters the brute's house to kill him, only to be tackled and have to engage in a lengthy fight with the assassin. The brute, as his name states, is seemingly incredibly durable, fast, and possesses great strength. I think at one point this was all attributed to drugs. Yeah, like is it Tilda Swinton or somebody just like randomly throws out the line that like he's all that's because of drugs.
But this was genuinely probably the best, not only the best fight scene of the year, but of this 20th decade, definitely the best fight scene of the decade. Like, this fight scene was wild. Every punch the Brute was throwing at the killer, I was feeling like my jaw was hurting. This dude was taking some swings, throwing him into the wall, fucking throwing him in the pillars.
Yeah.
And then, so matter of factly just shoots him up with no problem. Again, like, the killings in this movie have been nothing but matter of fact. The only real theatrical killing in this movie was the
I did not expect this fight to go down like this, and I thought it was very well shot. And I also thought they did a very good job making the Brute feel like a monster, almost. You know, with the way he just tosses our protagonist around, and
this was kind of like the Russian,
but done better. I would say done a little bit better.
Oh,
and no one on this set got stabbed for real. So.
One doesn't have Ladonna.
I think Fassbender has one over on old Kevin Nash because no one got stabbed for real in this.
Yeah, that's
but yeah, like the punches, the throws, all that kind of stuff. They gave weight to all of his actions. The Brute. It made him seem almost unstoppable. He makes the fight difficult for our protagonist, who manages to evade his attacks. The Brute eventually recognizes the killer as the person whose house he was sent to. In the end, the killer manages to shoot him through a door and escape before his pit bull, who just woke up, manages to maul him. People were saying that the old killer would have shot that dog. What do you say on that?
I don't think the killer would have shot that dog because it's pointless. What is it? The dog's
well, in this moment of to evade in this moment, instead of running away,
dog's
from
gonna point
instead of because he's running away from him so he doesn't get mauled by this dog.
Well, because once again, this is something personal. This isn't the pit bull.
That's what I'm saying.
To do with this.
Yeah,
and then we'll get to it later. But you're gonna see that like something like this it's innocuous to him. Okay, dog's here. Let me get away before my DNA is now everywhere, even though his blood would be everywhere, technically. After a fight like this, technically his blood would be like.
Yeah, I wondered. Like I said, he's able to compartmentalize this killing as the Brute being the only one that needs to, even if his literal life was in danger. Like, I don't know.
He doesn't even kill all of his gang members. Like, he waits for everybody to leave. Like, he was staking the whole day. He waited for everybody to leave so that he was just home alone. That's how like one track personal. I
think that's incredibly interesting.
This is
that he's able to obviously use some of his assassin acumen in this, and then at other points completely like, because I also think there could have been a better way to do this. He doesn't have to go into his home to do this. He could have waited somewhere, but this man's trying to get results. He's trying to get results right now.
Yeah, he could have done a sniper.
In the comics, he makes a point to say that he's kind of bored of sniping people. That he missed the days where he was able to get up close and do.
Oh yeah, that's right. When was the last time I had a drowning?
I wonder if there's a little bit of that to this. Like, if this is going to be the farewell tour, right? Then we're snapping necks on top of staircases.
No, he said that here.
Yeah.
He said that he was tired of shooting people from far away, that he missed proximity killings.
Yeah.
Like, he missed the garrote wires and the stabbings and all of that. And that's when the line goes, when was the last time I had a silent drowning? I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch, because really
we all reminisce about different things, I guess. Because that's not in my memory bank. Wait, no, definitely all this not. Tact. What do you think about the classic Molotov cocktail? Still effective.
I love me a good Molotov. I think they've always been done good in movies.
God, could you imagine the wrong?
Yeah, I think Molotov.
Could you imagine the wrong takes with those things? Fuck! Hose it down. We gotta get another shot.
I would hope that when they really film those movies, that it's just like a wine glass full of water, and they're just setting a rag on fire. Like, I would hope it's not like real Everclear, because that's like,
well, we see how
wild.
The fire erupts inside the apartment. I mean, that could all be computer graphics and stuff like that. But yeah, I just it's funny. You could just see like kind of almost a liquid and fire as one, a lake of fire come through. It's pretty cool. But him dead. Then we go to the concrete jungle. Then chapter 5, New York, the experts. So the killer travels to Beacon, New York, where he confronts the expert Q-tip assassin in a gourmet restaurant. The assassin seems simultaneously shocked and yet appears to accept her fate. Why do you think this was?
Yo, calling Tilda Swinton
a Q-tip?
What's up? Yeah, calling Tilda Swinton a Q-tip is disrespectful.
I think he says like,
so many
she
ways.
does look like a Q-tip. He says it when he sees her outside of the restaurant.
And then that's when he pops up at the table and they show Swinton. And I'm the only one in the theater at that point that laughed. I belted out such a snark because I'm like, you sons of bitches is wild. That's dirty. That was dirty. But I do like how the minute he sat down, she's like, let me get 5 shots. She wanted a whiskey flight for me.
Which I've only ever seen done with beers. I guess that is a thing you could probably get them done with alcohols, but yeah, I've
done that with beers. I've done it with 7-ounce glasses of beers. It's like $18, and you get to pick 5 different beers.
So, do you agree with my assessment of the situation that she is both shocked but also accepting of the fact that she's going to die in this moment?
Oh no, 100%. Once she orders the drinks, she's like, "Yeah, if I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go out swinging."
There's a bit of me that's almost shocked about those guys as well being unprepared for retaliation.
I don't know what they wouldn't have. Yeah, that's probably one of the one things that does bother me. But like, for the sake of just the overall movie, I don't really think about it too much. But like, yeah, did nobody think that this man was gonna like literally strike back and strike back hard?
I can only attribute it. Let's just attribute it to hubris across the board. Like everyone thinking they're better than they are.
Well, yeah,
So the expert questions the killer's motivations using a metaphorical story of a bear and a hunter as they partake in her last supper of whiskey. So it's in this conversation where she kind of brings up the idea or the doubt that she has that he missed by accident. This is when she says like the line of like, the guy who never misses missed or something like that. Which is what put me on the train of doubt in that moment.
Yeah, because she makes the argument that if you keep missing the bear, if you keep like going back for the bear every time you miss, like at what point is this just not about the hunt or
the bear sex,
suicide?
Because it was bear sex. It was sodomy. It was bear inflicted sodomy. The only time on this podcast you hear those words put together.
I don't.
Wait, yo, you lying, last. Bro?
Sodomy sounds scary.
Gosh, Andre Broger, I think, died. Captain Holt on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. 61 years old.
No way.
Damn.
Holy
life, man.
Shit.
Golly.
Yeah, died at 61.
As the world turns.
Pain.
after I like this conversation. I like that they have this conversation, and I also think he's telling the truth when he says that he wants a decent conversation. I really believe him in that moment where he's like, I will just talk to you. Because he can just kill her. You know, he says that the whole thing about what she says, like, why are we even sitting here? Like, you could just kill me. I could scream right now. You can.
I also want to believe that it's like, it's this weird, like you say, with the compartmentalization. This isn't a fight that he uses brute force with. He already used his brute force with the brute. And at this point, he's probably still recovering. This dude probably has like a concussion that even he doesn't know about. Like at this point, he knows he's going to kill her. He knows he's going to win. Might as well just like have an intellectual fight.
Do you believe her when she says that she tried to call the brute off? No?
No.
Okay. I think something she does later on could kind of clue you into the fact that she'll say anything.
It's not even that. Yeah, exactly. It's not even just that. I feel like she was just saying that to say it like even she knew that it was going to be bullshit and be seen through, but you know, at this point try anything to maybe change his mind. She definitely didn't try to call nobody off. She didn't even really she was definitely thinking about it. I could say besides anybody else,
she might have had some empathy in that moment.
Not getting sleep over that. Okay. I know she was.
After discussion about their profession, the expert skips dessert. I like that too. When she's like, she's like, do you have any ice cream? And the guy's like, we might. Do you want some? And then she looks at Fassbender. Fassbender gives her a look like, we're leaving. Like, we don't have time for that. Like, I've given you enough time. We sat here, we had the whiskeys. I even drank, which I don't do on the job. And he's like, nah.
Yeah, he even took a shot.
We've been making this goodbye party go on for too long. We're getting the hell out of here. I thought that was pretty funny. A lot of black comedy in this, as you were saying earlier. And they proceed to outside the park, knowing that she's in her last minutes.
Yeah, because it was very much like a shoot 'em up in a sense, where it's like, you know what it was? It was like a hot fuzz as well, where it's like it is taking the tropes, and it's not that it's satirizing them, but it's making them look ridiculous in such a cool way that it looks like it's just a part of the club of tropes. It's making you think of Jason Bourne and John Wick, even though in a sense it's kind of poking holes in the ridiculousness of these kinds of main characters.
And it plays with your knowledge of the genres. Like I said again, I think you would think at the end of this, he finds the person who commits the hit and burns the whole house down. And that's not what happens here. Intentionally, you know, like they did. That's all done on purpose. Fincher knows the tropes. He's done enough of these films on his own, right? Like if anybody gets it, it's him.
Oh, of course. He's done his own fair shares of tropes.
And there's nothing wrong with that. We talk about that all the time. You're a man now who have seen a multitude of films, and you understand that for a lot of people, it's the rule book. You know, you learn to color within the lines before you learn to color outside the lines.
What are the rules? These are the rules, and you don't break them. But sometimes these rules are good. Anticipate.
No empathy.
Don't improvise.
No McMuffins. Not even in the face of Armageddon. No English muffins. Sorry, no English muffins. Not even in the face of Armageddon.
Bagels.
Eat some bagels. So knowing that she's in her last minutes, she warns that her life will be what flashes before his when he dies, and that he will die. I just thought that was some cold but it's smack. But knowing what comes up next, I think she was being a little bit more pointed there, because suddenly, whoop.
But it was also like, she tries to pull out the knife, and he's like, no.
She appears to trip on the stairs. Bye-bye. She requests the killer to give her a hand. The killer instead shoots her dead in her forehead, and he notices that she had a concealed knife in her hand, ready to end our protagonist. With both assassins dead, it's time to trace. Go ahead.
And I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask you now. Noticed? Do you think he noticed the knife in her hand, or do you think he just took the opportunity of her tripping as a way to just put an end to all
I
this?
think he was gonna shoot her anyway, and it's one of those things. Is like, whew, she was also gonna kill me. Like I think it's after the fact, kind of like, oh, okay, good.
Because like,
Now I feel maybe a little bit less bad.
yeah, this isn't a Walter
No.
White situation. This definitely isn't a situation where he like noticed a broken plate missing. Like he saw her trip and he's like, all right, cool. Now I can kill her. And then when he noticed the knife, he's like, okay, now I definitely know that I was supposed to kill her in this moment.
Like, if he had any doubts, you understand? And you got to think of a man like him who is so meticulous would be constantly second guessing himself, and that's like, oh no, you're on the money. Yeah, that's like
Especially
you're on
after
the
the
money. Nope,
botch.
you had it 100% right. She was gonna get your ass. And now it's
The second you helped her up, she was gonna
now
do
it's time for the
boom.
final chapter. So chapter 6 is the client in Chicago. The killer finally travels to Chicago, where the client, billionaire venture capitalist Henderson Claiborne, lives in an upscale penthouse. The killer transfers the entirety of his finances to the Dominican Republic under the name Jefferson and observes Claiborne's routines. So the fact that that lady at the bank was kind of like, oh, do you want to talk about our other sort of, what is it? Our other investment opportunities? I think, like, yeah, I think he's
He's just
out,
like,
right? Like he's out, right? Like he wants to be out. It's not a case where he's like he'll just find another client to pay him for
out.
shit. I think he's done. What do you think?
No, he's done. He is 100% out of the game.
Yeah, so that's interesting there. What do you think about Claiborne? Seems pretty normal, right? Like he doesn't seem like a mustache twirling, super villain.
He's another bumbling idiot. He's another guy that's just he's like in over his head, doesn't know what he's doing, but in some ways does know what he's doing. Like he's smart enough to have security, but not smart enough to have 24/7 bodyguards.
Right. I love the line.
He's a
I love
working
the
light,
line
just
about
not a
Uber
shining light.
Eats or whatever, right? He's like, you pay for like $1 million security, and I still get in with the Uber. The Uber Eats is the best Trojan horse, I think, is what he said. Because he's like, no matter how much security you get, all of a sudden the millionaire
Yeah.
wants a watermelon, and then that's when I come in. And I was like, I never thought about that. Like everyone has to eat eventually, like even if they have full scale security.
Well, I mean, they've done that before in other mobster movies in the past. They've done it with the Chinese food delivery. They've done it with the pizza delivery. Like anytime like a higher up person gets takeout, they're always like scouring in the food, doing wire checks, making sure no one has like a gun
Right.
on them, having someone do taste tests. Like they've always done that thing. But I do think it's funny now that we have gotten into a place in society where we're not thinking like that. I think it's a great commentary on just us as like how lazy and pretentious and egotistical we've gotten that yeah, we can have $1 million security and still order Chipotle from Uber Eats and our assassin walks
There's got
in.
to be more of that in this, right? With the like I said again, with the 7-Eleven, McDonald's, whatever. Like there's got to be like the thoughtless nature in which we just the thoughtless nature in consumerism. Like I buy my Amazon stuff, I don't care who breaks their back to put it on the conveyor belt and get it to me. I need it today because it said it was going to come today. I go to get my burger. I don't give a damn what's going on with the behind the counter. Just make my food and kind of get with it. The impersonal nature of everything that we're at this point that came with, big conglomerate companies kind of speaks to the compartmentalization that the killer has. Right? Like he's here for a thing and then he leaves. He doesn't really care about anyone behind the counter. Where back in the day, you used to go to Tim hardware store and you knew Tim's daughters and you knew, like he was the guy in the neighborhood. Am I off base with any of this?
No, you're so right, because it's a lot more easier to be self-sufficient and self-reliant, but yeah, that's really all it is with that thought. It's like it's a lot more easier that way. You don't have to go to a sporting goods store for your crossbow.
Right.
Just order a crossbow.
That's pretty good.
And you don't even have to use your own home address. Like if you pay with like a prepaid debit card that you put money on, and then you use like a building that's like near you that has like that Amazon lockbox. So like my building has an Amazon lockbox, and it's not designed to any one apartment building. It's just in general for anybody that uses Amazon. So you can just have that shit shipped to any place that has an Amazon lockbox.
Yeah, and I mean, I think. What do you think about him breaking into the house with the Amazon stuff, being able to use?
No, when he was breaking into the gym, I was in actual tears. I'm like, how is this man doing this? Where he's bumping into a janitor, and then he gets pissed off. He intentionally bumps into the janitor to swipe the ID, and then gets pissed off and says, "Oh, new suit." Like, bro, are you trying to keep a low profile or not? Like, what is going on?
So he gets into the house. The killer confronts Claiborne at gunpoint in his penthouse, asking if he ordered the retaliated hit out of personal grievance. Is it more of an insult that Claiborne was?
Which is,
I would say, is it more of an insult that Claiborne was so like, I didn't even necessarily order a hit. Yeah, he's like, I didn't even necessarily order a hit. I ordered the first hit, and then when it didn't go well, your boss recommended. You know, like a recommended service. I'm like, well,
he's literally said that I was gonna get compensated. That's all I know. It's like, yeah, your boss said he was gonna compensate me for the money I lost out on the botch. It's like, I don't even know your name. I have no idea who you are. Like, that was the whole best part. When he broke in, he didn't even know why the guy was breaking in. He's like, listen, man, you want money? I get you money.
It's pretty interesting.
I get you that.
Yeah, that question,
so
right?
Like, even know why
I came in here with a silenced gun and you got no clue. And it's true. It's so impersonal to him now. You know?
Which he sees himself in that mirror.
People's lives were in the balance in this.
This is how the other
people
side
have
of
died because of this.
Look.
All of this. And and
profession.
Such a cold, impersonal way of even having this whole conversation. He says like, yeah, I got no personal problem with you. Cause he literally is like, yo, do we have a problem? That's literally how he comes to his house. He's like, do we got a problem? And the guy's like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, we don't have a problem. I was a first time client of a hitman. So I agreed to pay to get the trail scrubbed. I don't know what that meant. That's literally what he says. Like, I don't know what that meant. And then the killer kind of just senses that there's an indifference. Like, he doesn't think this is not a personal.
Well, he made that comment earlier. He said that he's going to look in his eyes and he's going to know. No, as in, I'll know if I'm going to kill him or not. Like, all I have to do is just look in his eyes, see what he says, and if I know, I'm going to, I'll cap him.
And he didn't see it.
And then I love how he threatens him. He's like, yo, if I have to come back here, I'm gonna do it like.
He said I would leave a radio. He said I'm gonna leave a radioactive speck on your coffee mug or something like that, and you'll die a slow death. Is that big talk? Is that just like a cold thing you say before you leave?
No, yeah. I believe him. I believe him with the neck snap.
And
thing,
also, you want to talk about kicking yourself. If this guy does come and do something else after this, right, for letting him go, it's something he probably never would have done. I think that's also an interesting wrinkle as well if they wanted to continue this. But yeah, he promises him that slow death. Excuse me. Later, the killer.
Which is all he wants.
Later, the killer returns to the Dominican Republic and settles next to a recovering Magdala. And in his inner monologue, we sense that he now sees himself as one of the many, no longer one of the few, hinting that the life of a hitman may be in his rear view after all. How did you take this ending? And did you notice the subtle eye twitch before the film cut to black? And what do you think it means if you did or didn't?
Um, well, really, my both with my reaction at the ending both times, it was more so of a damn. He actually got to win, and it's still that's I'm seeing it now in your way, and it's like, oh yeah, I see it that way, but it's still just a surprise factor of he got to win. Normally, they don't win. You know, John Wick
Yeah.
lost his dog. Like they killed the man's dog. Like they killed everyone's different people's love interests, from Ethan Hunt to Jason Bourne. Like that's just
Yeah.
what it's fridging. There's always fridging, and in a sense, you can make a case that yes, Fassbender's girlfriend was fridged here, but I would also argue that the girlfriend was really not. You could have done anything for him to be set
Yeah.
over the edge. But the fact that they didn't kill his girlfriend to make him feel alone.
Well, I think they went there to kill him, and when she was there, it became about quote unquote again scrubbing the trail. And they probably would have gotten away with it, but she stabbed the brute. I don't know if we've said that before. Like he got injured, so they had to basically leave. But yeah, I think it's interesting because there's a world in which, because we're working on two things. We're working on the idea that he's the protagonist, and we're working on the rule of cool, right, for this film. In no real world does he get away with all this. You know what I'm saying? Like Holt had to answer to somebody, right? I mean, Hodges had to answer to somebody.
Well, no, he would have gotten caught the second he killed, even before he killed Miami with Hodges, because once again he left DNA everywhere. And once again, yeah, Miami. You're telling me his blood splatter is not all over that apartment, even if it's blown up? You're finding something. There's something there.
It almost seems
that
like
you're gonna find skin follicle on body parts. You can scrub the dog. Do a little mouth swab of the dog.
If they wanted to continue it, they literally can pick up any one of these threads, you know. And I thought it was interesting that as he's saying that he's one of the many, no longer one of the few, that his eye twitches, almost like he's not used to this, or that he can snap back at any time. And I can bro, in the world that we live in, I could totally see a sequel. You know, I thought I was out. You know, they're saying that I'm back, kind of. You know, and maybe we could see some more proficient kills. But what a story! What a film! I really, really dug this. I like that you suggested it. With your film background and my comic background, it was really cool to see both of those worlds come together. With all the bona fides.
Oh yeah, once I saw it was a graphic novel, I'm like, yo.
Yeah, I might continue the graphic novel. In general, I really liked how it read. I thought the art was pretty damn beautiful. So I would really, really like to see the rest of the story and see how the rest of the story plays out. The world is slowly coming to not terms, but you know, the realization that this film exists. Hopefully this podcast helps that, and we help foster the conversation in it. That's all we try to do each and every week. But do you have anything else to say about The Killer before I start wrapping things up?
I think one of the funniest parts of this movie was when the credits were rolling. I turned over to my friend and I said, yo, this is the theme song from Charmed. It was the theme song from Charmed. If you type in YouTube the theme song from Charmed, and you listen to it, yeah, that was
in the title. Did they have a regular a regular music song theme song?
No, it was just that like they used a Smith song,
right?
And it wasn't even like a sped up or remix version. It was just legit the chorus.
They said that the reason why they chose the Smith is because majority of their lyrics are cynical, but then you'll get into the occasional song where they almost are in pain and are talking about how it hurts to be human or how much they want love or want to be loved.
Yeah, I can definitely see the killer listening to please let me get what I want.
Compartmentalization again, right? Like he's hearing songs about the beautiful things and doing horrible things. You definitely have to have the mind to separate the two, and it seems like our killer does.
I need to see a Spotify playlist.
I was also good. The last thing I was going to say is like, I get all the disguises, but all the disguises are also oddly similar, right?
Well, because he said that he wants to be inconspicuous, but not so inconspicuous that it draws attention. And he got the idea from
the German tourist, wasn't it?
Serial killer that literally wore the German tourist. Like he was some kind of, because he was criminal.
Like the people in Paris hate German, and he was people like they won't talk to me. They will ignore me if they think I'm a German, and so I'll dress and look like a German man. I wonder if that's true. I have to go to Paris.
I definitely don't want to test
any of that out.
An American in Paris dressing as a German.
If somebody annoys me, I might try out the whole staple gun, nail gun, chest thing, and maybe I'll get to 9 minutes. We'll see how that whole thing works.
I'll just sedate their dog.
I need a MythBusters. How many minutes does it take to kill somebody with a nail gun through the chest?
No, yeah, because and I also need a MythBusters on if a nail gun staple can even reach.
I guess with enough pressure, it was what, 3 inches?
It's gotta poke through the breastplate. It's gotta poke through the breastplate though.
Right here. No,
like unless
you guys couldn't do it, but I was tapping my breastplate because every time I hear breastplate and think of tapping, I think of Pulp Fiction. Like you have to get through the chest plate.
You got a jamming motion like this. Stab it 3 times. No, you don't stab it 3 times.
Great. Somebody make a Pulp Fiction comic so we can cover Pulp Fiction on this show. But the good thing is, if they do cover Pulp Fiction in a comic, we will be covering it on this show because we cover almost everything on this show: comics, comic book television shows, comic book movies, graphic novels, and even sometimes just the basic news, rumors, and speculation when it comes to comic book media. And we do so as part of the Major Issues Podcast, which you're listening to right now. The Major Issues Podcast comes out each and every week. We started coming out on Thursday, a little bit halfway through this year after we hit episode 300. So it's been fun on a new day, tackling some new projects. We just recorded our first episode of a new video series that will be coming out soon. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about that. But all of that stuff is going to have a home, and that home is ComicBookClique.com. ComicBookClique.com is the one stop for everything Comic Book Clique, our merchandise, articles written by us in every single episode of the Major Issues Podcast, which is like 600 hours of content at this point. It's where all of the stuff that we do live. It's where you can go to our TeePublic store by hitting Shop CBC. You can support Comic Book Clique and go to our Patreon, patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse, where for as little as $3, 10 cents a day, $3 a month, you can help support us, keep the lights on here, and afford the hardware and the software we need to keep providing free content like this each and every week. Follow us wherever social media, just literally Comic Book Clique everything. Facebook.com/Comic Book Clique, Instagram at Comic Book Clique, or use the hashtag Comic Book Clique to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. We're also at Major Issues CBC on Twitter, and we're at Major Issues CBC on Twitch. If you can't help us monetarily by either becoming a Patreon or buying a t-shirt for this holiday season, consider rating and reviewing us on iTunes. That'll be the best gift ever. Tell a friend to tell a friend about the podcast. We are getting bigger by word of mouth, but we need every mouth. That sounded dirtier than I wanted it to. But continue to spread the good word. Yes. Continue to spread the good word when it comes to Comic Book Clique. Tell your friends, tell a friend, rate and review us on iTunes. If you guys give us 5 stars on iTunes, then when people will look for this kind of content, they'll find us. We'll shoot right up. And I know that we do become the latest and greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media because I've been to the future. So I've actually seen that happen, but I can't tell you how we do it exactly because then I'll mess up the timeline. And next thing you know, The Rock is playing Magneto in First Class, and no one wants that to happen. That could you somewhere in between Rage and Serenity, you know, something. You gotta get in there. Somewhere between Rage and Serenity. But yeah, we are all over social media. Literally, just Google Major Issues, Google Comic Book Click, and you'll find us. But if the people want to find you, Dan the Comic Book Man, Dan the Movie Man, where could they find you?
Just just put my first and last name on Letterboxd. Just Daniel Georgi, DanielGeorgi. Just search my name on Letterboxd, and that's the best place to find me. Because then I have every Twitter link there. I have my Instagram.
Awesome. I'll actually go ahead and I will put the link for your Letterboxd in the show notes. Dan is an accomplished film watcher and reviewer and potentially writer someday if he gets what he wants. So follow his journey as he continues to watch the latest and greatest things to come to film and cinema over there, part of his Letterboxd. But we're finishing things up here for the year. So make sure that you guys get these last couple episodes in because they're going to be really, really fun. We're covering Mask of the Phantasm, Aquaman, and then we'll be talking about the best and the worst of 2023. So if you joined us all this time, keep the party going, man. And we'll see you guys next week. But my name is George Serrano, a.k.a. The Don.
I am Dan the
this
Comic
has
Man.
been our The Killer recap and review. And remember, whether you're an expert, a brute, a client, a dog, or a killer, remember you're always part of the clique. And always remember that you, yes, you, are worthy.